Hello, hello. How are you, Anne?
Good morning, Nikki. I'm doing so well. Great to be here. Good to see you today.
It's it is so good to see you. It's been a long time coming.
No,
Seems
I
like
know.
no, it seems like it's been months since we had our last conversation.
We are both busy women
Yeah,
making change in the world. So
that's
it's beautiful that we're together today.
I know. Just every little bit, you take these little nuggets that you dropped on me last time, and I'm like, look, we've got to get this on the radio show so that other people can glean from your expertise. I just think you are fabulous in all your efforts when it comes to communications. And I am just absolutely honored at this point to have you in this place on this platform at this moment.
Thank you, Nikki. So
Yes.
fun. Yeah.
So now that I've welcomed you, I want to welcome all of our guests. You are listening to Conversations in the Nick of Time. I am Nikki Roach, your host. And on this platform, we focus on leadership excellence and leadership accidents, knowing that we need both to be successful, and that success as we define it, not according to the world. I want to send a special thank you and shout out to our sponsors and those who hold us down and provide this opportunity to me and to you, those near and far: Sparkman Pathway to Careers, KSTL 690, and Covenant Exchange LLC. Thank you so much for your consistent support. And talking about support, our guest today, Anne Lasseigne Tiedt. Oh my gosh. This is a topic that is so funny and actually is very, very relevant, I believe, today in regards to how many of us are experiencing, if not for ourselves, for others, this 5 minutes of fame when it comes to media. And media has taken on a whole new life of it and world of its own, considering that we have so many additional platforms such as this to have an opportunity to share a moment that could either propel your company and career or put a pause, a hard pause, or as they say, you become a member of the cancellation committee or community, the people who were
Yeah.
canceled. By
Mhm.
one word, in a moment, you can be on top of the world, and then it can change at the moment. So I'm excited to have my guest, Anne Lasseigne Tiedt. And let me give you just a little background before she begins to prepare us on ways and strategies to be smart about media. Well, Anne Lasseigne Tiedt is an award-winning public relations and strategic marketing communications expert who helps businesses solve their communication challenges and achieve measurable results. Love that. And changing complex environments. Since 1996, she's been making this magic happen all across Austin, Texas, and across the United States, even internationally. Her career includes leading PR, marketing, and event marketing campaigns while on staff at the Austin Symphony Orchestra and the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. She also led a team at a notable Texas PR firm and owns her own PR consultancy before co founding Momentum Public Relations in 2008. For more than 12 years, the woman owned firm worked with more than 50 clients, 50, to define goals to create savvy, measurable communication campaigns that help them better themselves, their businesses, and their missions. In 2021, that is, and she is currently searching for a new opportunity to land, and as well as expanding other clients. And she is actually looking to transition, which is going to be one of our topics today, to because of the expansion of communication. She has a bachelor's degree in journalism and public relations from the University of Texas, Austin, with a minor in business. Is accredited in public relations by the Universal Accreditation Board and holds 2 Google Analytics certifications and a PESO Communications Model certification from Syracuse University. And I am excited to wrap up this brief introduction. On May 1st, Anne was the 7th award recipient of the Leadership Award from Women's Communication of Austin, being only the 7th person since 1992. That is to be commendable. And congratulations.
Thank you, Nikki. When I heard the news, I had this moment of great pause. I was like, me? Me? Okay. Wow. And the receiving the honor and kind of reflecting on the service and in my career, it was a great moment. And to receive it while I'm in transition, like you
Yeah.
said, was bolstering and validating, because when you're in transition, there are moments where you're like, am I doing the right thing? Is
Yeah.
this reset is uncomfortable? Am I moving forward enough? Am I on the right path?
Right.
So I'd say that, it was a great moment of looking back and saying, others have recognized I have achieved. I can stand in that and use
Yes.
that strength to continue my search for what's
Yeah.
next, because ooh, it's a search.
Yeah. But what's interesting though, when we talk about leadership excellence and accidents, you were at the top, you were like riding high momentum with a PR firm that was sought out.
Mhm.
And you decided, I want to try my hand at something else. Explain
Mhm.
to us where that comes from. I
So
understand it, but where does it come from for you?
so I'll say that, my business partner approached me and shared that she was looking for a different professional life. And she's my great friend. And, to work with someone alongside in solo practices that you merged. So together we worked together for 15 years. It was a real moment of self-reflection. And I went through all those like 7 stages of like grief and reflection very quickly. And within an hour and a half, I had a lot of clarity,
Okay.
thinking, I want to support her with her what's next, but wow, this is an opportunity for me to think, what do I want?
Okay.
What do I want to do? And when you talk about those leadership accidents, I left the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center in 2006 to just take a big, deep breath. And people started calling me and offering me business. And the next thing I knew, I was like, oh, wow, I kind of have I have a solo practice, and I didn't expect that.
Okay.
And it was at a time when my kids were 2 and 4, and a lot of people weren't working from home. So to be
Yeah.
able to create this work life opportunity um, over the next 15 years was an amazing gift for my family and for myself, to be able to navigate and find very rewarding work that served my time schedule and helped meet my family needs. And then at the same time, now my kids are 19 and 17. And as I thought about what was next, I'm like, you know what? I think it's time for me to take all of my experience, up level it a bit, look at the communications landscape.
Yeah.
Where is the future? And try and step into that, into a more integrated marketing communications role that uses a PR background. And I'm looking to either step into a full-time corporate role, or to consult at a higher level with a different mix of services. And to be perfectly honest, Nikki, I don't need to own the business because I've owned the business.
Yeah.
So I'm just ready for a different rhythm in my work life.
And it's so interesting, your story. I'm sure it's not unique, but you don't really hear or get a chance to really engage someone who, again, is riding momentum of
Mhm.
success as she defined it, and but decided to pivot right in the midst of that. And I think I applaud you, but it's fascinating um, to hear while in someone's in the journey. It's usually after the fact, to
Yes,
where it's like, I don't know what's gonna happen. And you kind of like don't know in a sense.
I don't
I'm
know.
thinking,
There's a lot of like persistent faith
okay,
here, and focus. I'll say that I have really looked at that place of owning the fact that this is uncomfortable, but in order to create a growth opportunity for myself, it's necessary. And the thing that, as I have conversations with people or conduct interviews, I really think about what's the narrative on the other side of this experience. So
yeah,
like if I stepped into this role at a specific company, What does that look like? Is it different enough from what I've done? How does it complement or expand my skills? How do I make an impact? And then at the end of the day, what's my narrative? What are my talking points? Because I am a PR gal, those are my roots.
Yeah.
Even if I'm not always handling media relations, I will always kind of consider that structure, right?
Right.
So what are my talking points on the other side? What's my complete narrative? And throughout this process, I'll say that, in 2021, I focused a lot on my self-development and my awareness. And really, I've learned that as I read job descriptions, I read them critically and
Okay.
think, is it enough? Does it go deep enough? Is it broad enough? And when recruiters share with me, your skills are broader than we're looking for. We wanted more specific, experience within this vertical, or we want you to have like 10 years or 15 years all in this vertical. I just sit there and think, not my job.
Yeah.
That's not my place. So I've learned that intellectual stimulation, it gives me a lot of energy, and I want to work with people that realize that energy that I'm bringing is authentic.
Yeah.
It's not forced, and there's something there.
Yeah.
So finding the right team and the right place for growth and narrative means I'm giving myself about a year to
Okay.
find the right job. And along the way, I'm doing some consulting or some contracting
Yeah.
because we all have to go to the grocery store, right?
Yes.
But I
Keep
am
lights on.
I am looking for that. Um, I guess I'll say it a different way. I journaled one morning and I wrote down, I'm open to yes.
Okay.
I'm going to say yes. Even this opportunity was a yes because I'm behind the scenes most times. I'm not
Right.
being interviewed
I know.
front and center.
I know. And I totally understand um parts of what you're going through in that space you're in right now. I too, parted from my 9 to 5
Right.
higher ed administrative role and being an associate vice president and then serving in that capacity for like 5 years. And I said, you know what? I want to try something else. And it was a gamble, but I told no one until they released the press release
Wow.
because I knew I would be talked off ledge in regards to why would you, and after it came out, exactly what I thought would happen happened. Why would you leave? And for me, like you're young, you're a minority, you're from the underrepresented population in a space where we're not represented enough. Like, why would you leave that space? And it's like, it was time. Like, you just know when it's time to shift.
Mm.
Did that for 2 years, but then I wanted more. I wanted to be challenged. I wanted to be stretched. And so because of actually I wasn't looking at the moment, but I was challenged by my male mentor to identify some opportunities and just focus on landing the interview because it will help with professional development, but it will help you talking about that narrative. It'll
Yeah.
help you clean up your personal narrative. We think we know, but he says, not until you're in front of people who you're trying to convince, you can really hone in on your storytelling. So he said, use this opportunity as a art form to learn, craft your art form of communication, but also how to sell yourself. Are you getting over to them? Are you convincing them? Are you making it to the next round? Because then there's something you've said. But he said you'll learn so much about yourself during the
We
process.
will. These takeaways are, they've always been there, but they're bubbling up to the forefront. And I have to say, they're affecting other parts of my life in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
And something that you just said about you are comfortable. I truly believe the moment that you fully recognize that you are comfortable with where you're at, it's time to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And if sometimes you have to ride that comfortable place a little while longer because other parts of your life might need to settle, right? But if the rest of your life is manageable and you're too comfortable, especially professionally, then you should find the place to be uncomfortable. And I'll say that, you know, I even before I we finally made the decision to close the firm, I took 7 search engine optimization classes to really deeply learn that technology and apply it to the communications landscape and see how it knitted in with public relations. And I don't know a lot of PR people that have sat down and taken 7 classes.
Yeah.
And were some of them hard? And did I have to like rewatch and learn and look? Yes, but I got it. And it was inspiring to me to be on a path of continual learning
Mhm.
again. Yeah.
Yeah. And things are just ever changing, especially when we talk about the space of communications. Um, who knew, even
Mm.
a year ago, almost a year ago, that we would even be conducting radio interviews in such a way, right? As well as creating our own networks, so to speak, on a platform such as a YouTube. Like everything has shifted, but I think there are core things that causes us to have a narrative that people want to hear,
Mm-hmm.
one in which they will learn from, one in which they will come back because something's been said, to tap you as a thought leader in that area of expertise,
Absolutely.
or industry. And so, as we begin to shift our conversation into this media relations, which is you are the expert at this. How is it that things have changed because of these different platforms and COVID?
I think that first of all, let's talk about the different platforms. So when I started my career, I'm going to date myself. I didn't get voicemail. I faxed press releases, or I drove them around town, or I put them in the mail. There
Wow.
was no email. I had no email account the first 3 years that I worked. And everything was by phone and by like little pink message pad, right? So I think that the speed with which communications operates over the last 25 years is you can't even put a number on it. It's so much more than tenfold. And all of our reporters have had to become their own publicists. They
Okay.
must maintain their own social media channels. They have to create their own content. They publicize their own stories. Be If they're in TV, print, online, it doesn't matter. They have a public persona that didn't exist 25 years ago, right?
Right.
So then you look at like the medium itself. I once we did an interview with someone, had a client, and it was fascinating. It was much like this format. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago, but he was on assignment for a major magazine, and so he videotaped the interview, right? Number one. Then he created the podcast out of it. Number two. It also was on his website as a download. Number three. And
Yeah.
like on and on. It was transcribed into an article with links to the website, right? That's number four piece of media. Then he was doing all of that for Fortune, but he was, or maybe it was Entrepreneur, one of the two. I can't recall. And then he had his own um, blog. So,
Okay.
and then he publicized it. And I went through and counted how many touch points did this one interview result in kind of earned media or shared social media for my client. And it was 24. 24 because he reposted and he was on all the different socials. And that was an article that was well shared that really helped turn her business. And it was she was the leader of a nonprofit organization. And it was, which I think nonprofits are businesses, they should be run as businesses. And so it was the value not only to the families that they served, but also attracting other funders and the thought leadership position that it provided her within her space. Adding that link into awards programs, that sort of thing.
So
Probably
did
just over answered your question. I'd give
no,
a
no,
couple.
no.
be a
No,
little more succinct.
no, that's good because even one thing you mentioned was there was an initial interview opportunity,
Mhm.
but then it landed on not only there, but then it went to a website, it went to a blog, it went to like all. So as even a small business owner, and even Fortune 500s or nonprofits, would you say that somebody has to be managing that?
Yes, I would
So,
say that when you're media, so you're either looking at a proactive or a reactive campaign. So your proactive campaign, you're creating a pitch, you're putting together your targets. Where do you want to be seen, heard, or read, and you're making that outreach. Um, I by email and phone. A lot of times you still need to call, and you're looking to land the interview, right? You're proactively pitching. On
yeah.
the opposite side, you're reacting. Your awareness and your authority or your newsworthiness is high enough that someone is seeking you out. And
Okay.
when the media calls, there are certain like rules or rights that you have that I found over the years not everyone is in tune with.
Let
Um,
me unpack that. Rules and rights?
yeah.
I
So
don't even think I'm aware.
So when I receive a media call, what I do is, really make sure the first thing is like, well, can you go ahead and tell me your name again and how do you spell that? Because in all of your follow-up, I want to spell Nikki correctly. I want to spell it the way you spell it, not the way I think it might need to be spelled. For Anne, I want the E on the end of my name. That's very important to me.
Yeah.
And you've seen my last name, so you better be spelling those. So, I always get their name and their contact information, treat that cell phone number confidentially, and then really ask them some questions that help you shape the opportunity. What is your deadline? Knowing what the deadline is right off the bat lets you know, do I have to conduct this right now? Which you don't have to conduct the interview right now. Do you have a week to prepare? Do you have a month to prepare? Do you have 24 hours to prepare? So, what's your deadline? Make note of that. And then the next question I think you should always ask is, what made you decide to cover this?
Interesting.
Because the answers that I've received over the years, Nikki, are fascinating. Oh my gosh, I've been following her work for 5 years, and I finally convinced my editor to write something. Let me write something. That means this person is knowledgeable and fired up.
Yeah.
Then you've got well, I didn't really want to cover this, but my producer asked me to do this, so I just need to knock it out in the next 24 hours. Oh, okay. Now I know exactly where you stand.
Okay.
And then I once had a reporter say to me, I'm on assignment. It was for Consumer Reports. I have someone on the East Coast. I have someone on the West Coast, and you're sitting in the middle of the country. And I've got to have somebody in the middle of the country. And here's a great secret: good media begets more good media.
Yeah.
So I saw your client in the such and such magazine quoted, and I just thought that she'd be good for this. So knowing why they called, so now I know I can go back to that interview where the message was on point and caught
Yeah.
someone else's attention. Repeat that
You
message.
leverage it. Yeah.
And then, there's also the one of my funniest moments. I was like, for real? Pitching the Boston Globe. Didn't get a bite. I was kind of like, didn't get a bite. 9 months later, I got a phone call from someone and I asked the question, what made you decide to cover this? Because I'm looking through my files. This isn't the person I pitched, but it is my pitch. She's reading it back to me over the phone. And she said, I just took over from the last reporter and I inherited this box of stuff. And I found the product that you sent out with the press release stapled to it, and half of it was torn off, but your phone number was still on it. And I just thought it would make a good inclusion in the roundup story. So the roundup story, let's talk about that next. That's your next question, Nikki.
Okay.
So who else are you covering in this story?
Okay. Now I would not think to ask that.
And here's
I
why.
haven't in the past.
Oh, you've got to ask. Here's why.
Okay. Who else?
Are you the first person that they're interviewing and they're like, and I don't know who else I'm going to interview? because here's what your value add opportunity is. You now get to help shape the story. You get to give the background information. You get to help take it where you want to go. And
Okay.
then let's think about the 1999.com era where tons of reactive media that I'm managing. And, who else are you looking to interview for this story?
Mhm.
And they would list 4 to 5 other companies that are in the vertical space. And my client would be the add-on number 6 because they're not the market leader. They're the market disruptor. They're breaking out. But it allowed me, and it's an interview we wanted to do in a publication that was important to their business. It would give me the opportunity to share with the client, this is a roundup story. You're going to be one of 5 or 6. Share your most important message and know that this is not a feature opportunity. We're happy to be included in the piece. And it's what we do with it afterwards that holds a higher value for you. So, I really prescribe to, and this is true for public relations as well as marketing. You have more control in marketing and even more control in advertising, right? Because you're paying for that.
Right.
So, no surprises. So back in the day, my no surprise, I want to walk out to the end of my driveway, pick up the newspaper, open it up and be like nonplussed. This is exactly what I thought it would be. I want to click on the online link, see everything, looks as if it's in order, and I'm just not surprised. Because if you're surprised, maybe that's a place to level up in the next opportunity and pay more attention. Well, consider, what's the question I could have asked that would have diminished that amount of surprise? What could I have done differently?
Right. And even in that, when it comes to messaging, us understanding the why, I believe it was something that we had a chance previously offline to talk about,
Yes.
and really being clear on that messaging, and then also understanding what not, how much to give, but how to pull back and not give certain things.
So I've, if somebody was looking to create their own message platform and they haven't done that, they're looking to prepare. I think there are 3 questions that always help you kind of create what your top line messages should be. You
Mhm.
should really think about who you're helping, how are you doing it, and why is it needed? Not why are you doing
Ah,
it? Why is it needed? What problem are you trying to solve?
mhm.
And so I'd love to share about the Girls Empowerment Network. They were a client for 9 years. And through this spring, I stayed on board, volunteering with them, and also um, it's their 25th anniversary. So I joined their 25th anniversary committee. And then I also have gone back and been on assignment with them as a consultant. And so they, in the middle of the pandemic, really they held these huge statewide conferences in Texas, in either Austin, Houston, or Dallas. 2,000 girls and the adults that care about them would come for a full day of like girl empowerment and national speakers and breakout sessions where girls could create their own conference experience. And so the pandemic stopped all of that.
Yeah.
And so they really thought about, who are they helping? They're a nonprofit organization. They're social workers. They help girls believe in their self-efficacy, that they're unstoppable. They have evidence-based, results. So they need to continue to help these girls who are now suffering, especially in the beginning of the pandemic when everything went away. Your connection to friends, your schools, you're in homes. Sometimes girls were in homes that weren't safe places for them.
Right.
The mental health toll it was taking on
Yep.
our girls in like 3rd through 12th grade, the uncertainty. So they went through and interviewed families and girls, asking them, how can we help you? So they moved from the, who are we going to help? We're going to help the same people we've always helped. How are we going to help you differently? And they realized that parents really wanted some sort of activities, a series of activities that girls could do on their own or with friends. And they put in virtual check-ins and they created these spark kits. that now there were no boundaries. It wasn't the boundaries of Texas. Spark Kits had been mailed to other states. They've been mailed to Canada, and girls could receive a box of 25 activities themed and around a specific theme like advocacy or becoming unstoppable or back to school. And there's online check-ins, much like this with Zoom,
Mhm.
with girl leaders and experts. And that survey really showed the why. Why was it needed? They
Okay.
weren't just creating this in a vacuum, it was being asked for.
And that is a great point, especially when we talk about actually any organization or solopreneur who is launching out and preparing to share their product and or service. But there's still a communications arm of, I don't care what it is that you're doing, whether
Right.
it's under the radar or above the radar, out in public, or even just on a social media Instagram page. That's still media, that's still
Yes.
communicating. And I love that you brought up the fact that it was being asked for. And I think we
Yes.
get caught up, we try to force feed through media
Mhm.
instead of allowing our audiences. Well, that's a whole nother interview when we talk about knowing our audience, because everyone is not supposed to be our audience, right?
That's true. When somebody says, I heard something a couple of months ago that the riches are in the niches.
Ah,
I got to give credit. John Nemo said it. And
I love
I
that.
think that in all parts of communication and business, that has a place. The more specific you can be, the higher value you can communicate, the more it resonates with the audience that you want to reach that matters most. When somebody says, "Oh, well, this is great for everyone." No, actually, using the Girls Empowerment Network example, it is most important to parents and adults who care about girls and those who identify as girl who are going through struggles in that way, as well as your educators, counselors, school districts were buying Spark Kits to send out to families that they knew those girls were struggling or in need because they'd already been pre-identified by a school district. And so let's talk about like what happens when you earn this media? What value did it provide? So,
Oh God. This is after we've had all the hype.
oh, we've we've really identified our proactive, our reactive. We've
Mhm.
asked the right questions. We've prepared for our media interview, and we can we're gonna go back if you want and talk a little bit more about like how you can really be on point in that media interview. But I want to paint the picture of why you need to be on point. And I
Okay.
think it's that your earned media, all of your media interviews should really knit well together with your owned media. And your owned media is anything that you have complete control over. Your
Okay.
website is your
Okay.
owned media. Your
Okay.
newsletter list is your owned media. Your one-on-one conversations where you have the control and the message is your owned media. It might be your PowerPoint presentation
Interesting.
to people, right? So it could be your your financial deck that you're sending out for sponsorships or for investments. um, Whatever you're deploying to your sales team, you own it, right? You have complete control over it. So how do you take some of that third party earned media and infuse it into your owned media and really see if it's making a difference in your communication goals? This is
Okay.
where I really took a look at Google Analytics. Does it work? Are people, after they read your story, see you on the evening news, click on a link, is all of it going back to your website? Because your website's where they can learn more. It's a lot of times where they can take action and download something. You can track that.
So we should be making sure as individuals or companies, we're always pushing even in our any media outlet or opportunity, that website, that link.
you're connecting back to your website. And even if you're
Okay.
not overtly pushing, you
Okay.
should see if the activity affected. Did you have a bump in traffic?
Okay.
When you shared it on social media, when you shared it on Instagram or Facebook, go and look at your referral traffic in Google Analytics. Was there a bump? You can actually see the link that someone clicked on to go to your website as well. So making sure that you integrate Google Analytics so that you can have access to all that free data. At the end of the day, it answers the question, was this worth my time? Did I get anything from it? How did it change my business? It helps you really set the strategy. Should I invest more time and effort in this? Because nobody's made the time machine. We're not manufacturing extra hours in the background, right?
Right.
So you can spend the same amount of time preparing for a media opportunity, which makes you feel really fancy, makes you feel good,
Yeah, it does.
or you could be spending that same amount of time on an e-newsletter campaign where people have opted in and you're sharing your message directly.
And that's that owned media.
Mhm.
Okay.
So you're owned and you're earned. What's your mix between the two, right? Before you look at so we talked about my peso certification. So this is all rooted in peso certification. So your social is called shared because that's the place you share your message.
Okay.
And then paid is really if you're running a paid campaign. Are you looking to amplify your social? Have you written something as a byline piece, and
Mhm.
then you're going to pay to have it on other platforms cheaper than you think to do things like that.
Okay.
But it's the value of bringing people back to your website
Okay.
and knowing what worked. What were their interactions? If you have a store, did they visit your store? Why did they visit your store? It's all
And
of
what?
leads into the customer journey, the marketing piece. So the way that I'm approaching this transition that I'm in is really looking at deep public relations experience
Mhm.
coupled with marketing and integrated marketing experience. And where is the future of communications? We've had analytics and AI in place, artificial intelligence, like we never have before. So
Yes.
I'm very interested and like intellectually stimulated by the place where health tech comes into play, integrated profiles, higher level marketing programs that are one on one and customized, and how all that fits into the greater communications landscape, still keeping my PR roots. I'm never going to not appreciate the
That's
earned
you.
media.
Right, that is so you. Like, I don't think that will ever leave because even now you're looking at this intersection of marketing, but with the PR, deeper PR presence, which I totally can understand how impactful that would be, especially considering how everything is evolving and how it is a matter of being able to respond
Yes,
faster, but we've got to respond smarter.
we do.
And again, back to what I was saying, that cancel culture in moments, regardless of the size of your company, your organization, your special event, it can be high one day, low the next without proper preparation. I also hear you saying the importance of having, it may not be a standard website, but I'm hearing because I know there had been talk about like, oh, that was something that we needed years back, but it's not necessarily important now because you have all of this social media. But I'm hearing you saying is we need a place for our community, our niche market, our target to land. They need to land somewhere.
Well, let's think
Right?
about this.
Okay.
I appreciate social a lot.
Okay.
I'm not always active there. So, like personally,
I'm not either.
I'm watching, I'm reading, I'm paying attention, but I take social breaks. I take intentional social breaks.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, you don't own that. They can create the new algorithm. They can decide they're going to go out of business tomorrow. They can change all the rules on you any day of the week that they want.
Or snatch it down probably,
Take it
and
away.
you have nothing.
You have nothing. So if you have all of your expertise
Think
and you're
about that.
running, you absolutely can run, you can sell through Facebook, you can run a fundraising campaign through Facebook, but you can upload your media list and create a lookalike audience, all of that, right? As long as you're following GDPR and you're following all the rules. I want to make sure that as I recommend these things, if they're interpreted as recommendations, please go follow all the rules,
Right.
and realize what you're stepping into. At the end of the day, you could also build your own list and market directly.
Which I hear that direct email, direct contact,
It's
it's
back.
still that is the number one thing,
The
right?
resurgence of email, yes.
That's
That
interesting.
because it's your inbox, right? You're gonna manage it. And in each generation, I'm Gen X, and each generation,
Right.
they're on their phones. If once Especially once they hit the workplace, or well, let's just say even school. I mean, middle school, you have email.
Yeah.
So it's not going away, and it's a great way to clearly communicate. And you can create things like landing pages that, did people go to the specific page that I wanted them to? Did they use a coupon code? Did they actually open the email, and what did they do with the email? And you can look at those metrics within your email client system. And
Yeah.
then if you have a website you're sending them back to, you can also look at what actions did they take on my website. Separate and apart from that, take in all of that beautiful earned media and weave it in as validation and quotes,
Yeah.
and see how that earned media helps reshape the conversation with your target audiences. How does it support specific messages or bolster certain goals?
That I'm sitting here in awe because like you kind of like gloss over some of this, but to actually hear this and then understanding own versus earned, that alone was like an aha moment. And then also that who, how, and why.
Mm.
Like that stepping back even right now at this moment causes me to rethink how am I actually communicating even this platform to
Let me tell you something that just blew my mind. So I'm going to close my company, right? And I just sat there and I thought, okay, what am I going to do? I don't need to have a website personally. I don't.
Mhm.
But I got me a super special set of names. So let me just see. Ooh, look, my URL is available. It is me, and there is a teacher in Germany that have the same name, and she hasn't bought it, but I'm gonna get it. So I set up anteat.com, and I just kind of took. It's a 3-page website. It's about me, a little bit about me, a little bit about my background. Put some blog posts up,
Yes,
new as
very
well.
good resources.
Oh, well, I just felt like I'd already created that. So, took them from Momentum, refreshed them, wrote some new things. I'm a little behind on the blogging. I know better. I'm gonna put something out new soon. So, long story short, as I do these interviews with companies, um, sometimes I'm asked. Somebody asked me, "Well, where are some of your writing samples?" And I was like, well, I have a website and I have Google Analytics on it. So not only am I able to give them a writing sample, I'm able to tell them this is one of my most popular blog posts, because I know that people are not only hitting the page in the new Google Analytics 4, there's a scroll function. I know they're reading to the end. I know they're reading 100% of the entire page, not just clicking on it and leaving.
Oh my goodness. So then
And
it helps back to shaping the language that's used in
yes,
our presentation to possible media opportunities.
or in this case, an interview opportunity.
Interview, yeah.
We want to know if you can write. Yes, I can write. Yes, I can do these things. Here you go. Here, and then let me quantify them for you. And
Wow.
their response was, we have a hiring freeze right now, but we're looking to lift it. Could you please be patient with us? I said yes. And then they came back and said, this is absolutely amazing. Every single interaction we have with you opens the door more and more. Even if that is not a place that I end up employed at, it was the message to hear during this
Yeah.
uncomfortable journey. And it was the place where I was also able to share press kit materials that I'd created for a client, contributed bylined article that I had underneath my byline that's published, and then something that I wrote for myself that I quantified.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not looking to own my own business. So I share that as an example of when you have expertise, it is something that you can just kind of create and monitor and nurture on your own. If you're doing that within a larger organization, you can take those skills into your team and have even more to track and analyze and use to shape your next strategy.
That is phenomenal advice. I mean, I'm sitting here again in awe, like I'm thinking, I'm being present, but I am thinking like, oh my gosh, like, because it's going to make me pivot in regards to how I approach things moving forward. But also there's some things I need to go back to really think it through, but also to reposition it
Yes.
through communication.
Mm-hmm. To really
Thank you.
think, what is that? What is your largest goal? Like, what do you want the very most, right? What do you want to be known for? And then how do you check it? And
Yeah.
I think that more than ever before, we're able to use analytics to help check it.
Yeah, and it matters.
It matters.
In the line of communications, where do you see it going? Like,
I do see it going to this like um to where there's more than ever like a blend of PR and marketing.
okay,
I think the peso integrated communications model is the future.
okay,
I think that, anytime that there is a position that I'm looking at that is public relations is synonymous with just media relations,
mhm,
then it's not a position that is by any means not important. It's just not deep enough. And if that's all you do, I'll say that if you continue throughout your career and don't broaden your skills, at some point in time, you're not going to find a place. It's going to
yeah,
be harder to find a place.
yeah,
So public relations isn't dying. I think it's evolving, and the future is really that communications tech piece,
okay,
the integration of AI, the streamlined persona, the one-on-one marketing opportunities, the tracking. I mean, the things that you can see in Google Analytics now that you couldn't even see last fall, early last fall before they launched GA4 are just kind of mind blowing,
yeah.
right? Especially to someone who started her career without an email address.
I know that, and just the shift. I mean, and then we're like you said, we're in one now.
Mhm.
One thing I do want to touch on as we wrap up: top three things that come to mind when it comes to media opportunities. So someone's presented with an opportunity. They secure the interview. They've
Right.
got their who, what, how, and why nailed down. They ask those questions. What else is being interviewed? Who else is being interviewed? What made you contact me? That was kind of things. We get all that together. What
Yep.
top three things do we need to not do?
To not do. Okay. To not do. So you absolutely want to not stray from your messages.
Okay.
You know the top three things that you want to communicate, and you always want to come back to them. When you find yourself like wandering, bring it back.
Okay.
You do not want to lie. or stretch the truth
Okay.
at all. I had a CEO that I worked with years ago, and he would deliver the most on point, amazing interviews to business reporters. And then at the end of the interview, he would say, and you know what? I think at the end of Q2, we're going to be at blah, blah, blah place. And I would just sit there and go, and the reporter would say, by what day? And he'd say, by like by probably the second week in October. And we're sitting here in May. And I just sit there and go, I'd go back to my office. I'd make a calendar note because I knew that reporter was going to call me the second week in October. And he would. And then he would ask where we were with progress. And then the next thing I knew, I'd have to say, we didn't hit that mark. Let me go ahead and set you up with an interview with the CEO. And now we have a piece of earned media that's negative, not positive, because they didn't meet their stated goal. So don't overshare. Don't stretch the truth. Don't guesstimate. Absolutely do not lie. And then the third thing is I'd really look to make your messages simple.
Okay.
The use of jargon, especially in business media, is exhausting. So I worked with a CEO that, like, when they would ask, and so what is the financial health of your company right now? Where are you at? Is it looking positive? And he would be like, well, we're well funded and we're EBITDA positive. Earnings before income, blah, blah, something, taxes, blah, like EBITDA. And I would just sit there and I think, that's fine if you're talking to Dow Jones, they know what that means. But don't tell our local ABC station reporter that. You could instead say, the financial health of our company is really positive. We're on a growth trajectory. Done.
Period. Right.
So I think that, the last thing that I'll say, kind of, when I look at rules, when you hear the question that you're asked, you have the opportunity to put that question back into your answer or not. Okay. And if you're asked the negative question, do not put it back in your answer. Okay. So, if you were to say, hey, Anne, what's something that's really horrible that's going on in your life right now? I would not say, oh my gosh, the most horrible thing that's going on in my life right now is. I would instead bridge to, Nikki, that's a great question. Right now, I am in a place of transition, and that means I might be uncomfortable sometimes, but through that uncomfortableness, I also have growth opportunities. So I've honored your question. I've bridged to something else. Uncomfortable would be what I put in the category of something horrible, because sometimes the uncomfortable is really uncomfortable. But I give that as an example, and hopefully people can tie it back to what we said earlier today, right?
Yeah, that is so good. I'm going to consider those our tips in the nick of time, in regards to what not to say, but those are so useful tools. Interviewing, whether it's with the media or a job, right? Very, very good. Now, we definitely have to invite you back because you, as promised at the beginning, listeners, was that not an amazing deep dive, actually, into some best practices and some next practices? And where can the listeners find you and learn more?
They can find me at annetiedt.com, and I'm going to spell that for you. It's ANNE, T is in tiger, IE, D is in David, T is in tiger.com.
Wonderful, wonderful. This has just been amazing. Again, like I said, definitely have to bring you back because there's more to this story. And then there's also more strategy. And I love how we've been able to weave in a personal journey also with the professional journey. And I thank you for trusting the platform to share such knowledge. And I am just going to wait and anticipate a call after a couple of weeks and with some good news. I'm really, really rooting. And anytime this platform can be of assistance to you, do not hesitate to reach out.
Thank you so much. This
Yeah.
was a beautiful way to start my day, and I appreciate you asking like such thoughtful questions.
Yes. Thank
This was
you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in and giving us your ear, your head, your heart. You could be doing anything else, but you decided to join us. And I have no doubt that you're taking some tools away to position yourself for greater success. And again, you have everything already that you need to be successful, success as you define it, not according to the world. Just tap into it. I want to thank Sparkman Pathway to Careers, KSTL 690, and Covenant Exchange LLC for your support. I am Nikki Roach. You can learn more and follow us now that I've got a lesson at nikkiroach.com. And we look forward to joining you very, very soon. In the meantime, go be great. Continue to show up and share out. Bye bye.